The signal and response. The observation deck of Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Station was unusually quiet. Dr. Maya Chen leaned against the railing, staring at the holographic star map that dominated the circular room. The blue light illuminated her face as she traced constellations with her finger. After 15 years working as the station's lead xenolinguist, she had grown accustomed to the silence. Humanity had yet to make contact with alien life, despite their best efforts. Until today. Dr. Chen, we need you in Analysis Lab 3. Immediately. The voice over the intercom belonged to Director Harlow, and something in his tone made Maya's heart race. When she arrived at the lab, a dozen people huddled around a central console. Their faces reflected a mixture of excitement and disbelief. "It came through on the quantum array 30 minutes ago," Harlow said, motioning her closer. "We've verified it's not from any Earth source." On the screen before her, a pattern pulsed in regular intervals, not random noise. This was structured, intentional. "Is it?" Maya couldn't finish the sentence. "Yes," Harlow confirmed. "First contact. And it's a distress call." Maya's fingers flew across the interface, analyzing the signal's patterns. "It's using mathematical principles as a foundation, then building linguistic structures on top, exactly as our theoretical models predicted." She worked through the night, piecing together the alien communication protocol, occasionally gasping as new revelations emerged. By morning, she faced the United Earth Council with her findings. "The message comes from something called the Galactic Coalition," she explained to the assembled leaders. "They're under attack by a hostile force. Their main defense fleet has been destroyed, and they're requesting immediate assistance from any spacefaring civilization within range." "Why us?" asked the European representative. "We've barely established a permanent presence on Mars. We're hardly a major spacefaring power." "The message was broadcast on all frequencies in all directions," Maya replied. "A desperate measure. They're reaching out to anyone who might help." Admiral Shen, head of Earth's modest defense force, leaned forward. "What exactly are they asking for?" "Military support, primarily, but also medical assistance. Their transmission included coordinates for a gathering point where survivors are assembling." Debate raged for days. Earth had its own problems: climate recovery efforts, resource management, political tensions. Some argued they couldn't afford to divert resources to an alien conflict. Others saw a moral obligation to respond, or an opportunity to advance humanity's position in the cosmos. In the end, they voted to send aid. Captain Darius Kane stood on the bridge of the EF's of Horizon, Earth's newest and most advanced vessel. At 47, Kane had navigated humanity's expansion through the solar system, commanding missions to establish the Mars colony and the mining operations in the asteroid belt. His weathered face carried the lines of someone who had made difficult decisions in harsh environments. "Final system check complete," Captain reported his first officer, Commander Amara Okafor. "All 5 ships report ready for departure." Kane nodded, studying the small fleet on his display. The Horizon would lead, accompanied by the medical ship Mercy, the supply vessel Bounty, and 2 military escorts, the Sentinel and Guardian. Not much compared to Earth's full defense capabilities, but all they could spare. "Send the message to all ships," Kane ordered. "We launch in 30 minutes." As crew members made final preparations, Kane retreated to his quarters. On his desk sat a photo of his late wife and their daughter, now a physician on the Mercy. This mission would take them farther from Earth than humans had ever ventured, through uncharted space toward an unknown threat. The journey would take 6 weeks at maximum FTL speeds, an eternity if the situation was as dire as the distress call suggested. "Captain to the bridge," called Okafor over the intercom. "It's time." The 5 ships rose from Earth's surface in perfect formation, breaking through the atmosphere into the blackness of space. Kane watched his planet shrink on the view screen, a blue marble against the void. "Set course for the Coalition coordinates," he commanded. "Maximum speed." The journey proved uneventful until the final day. As they approached the rendezvous point, the fleet dropped out of FTL to find themselves facing an enormous space station, or what remained of one. Huge sections had been torn open, exposing corridors and chambers to vacuum. Debris floated in a wide field around the structure. "Life signs?" Kane asked, his voice tense. "Multiple readings, Captain," reported the sensor officer. "None matching human parameters." "Broadcast on all frequencies," Kane ordered. "Tell them we received their distress call, and we've come to help." For several minutes, there was no response. Then a voice came through the speakers, the universal translator converting alien sounds into English. "Unknown vessels, this is Orbital Haven Sanctuary. Identify yourselves immediately." Kane straightened his uniform. "This is Captain Darius Kane of the Earth Fleet Horizon. We received your distress signal and have come to provide assistance." A long pause followed. "Earth? We have no record of your world or species in our database. Please stand by for scanning." An energy beam swept over their ships. Not weapons, but sensors probing their vessels. "Captain," said Okafor, "they're requesting permission to send a delegation aboard." Kane nodded. "Granted. Prepare the diplomatic reception bay." An hour later, Kane and his senior officers stood in the reception bay as the airlock cycled open. 3 aliens entered. 2 tall, willowy beings with iridescent blue skin and 4 arms, and between them a shorter, stockier creature with rough orange hide and eyes that protruded on short stalks. "I am High Counselor Zixara of the Galactic Coalition," said the orange being, its mouth moving in patterns that didn't match the translated words coming through the human's earpieces. "These are my associates from the Lilani species." "Welcome aboard the Horizon," Kane replied. "I'm Captain Darius Kane. This is my first officer, Commander Okafor, our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Rivera, and Dr. Chen, our xenolinguist who decoded your message." The aliens studied the humans with obvious curiosity, their eyes lingering on the humans' muscular builds. "Your physical form is unexpected," said Zixara. "You appear remarkably dense and sturdy for a sentient species." Dr. Rivera smiled. "Earth has relatively high gravity compared to many life-bearing worlds. It shapes our physiology." "You received our distress call," Zixara continued, seemingly eager to move the conversation forward. "We are grateful, though surprised. The Coalition encompasses 3,000 worlds across 7 sectors of the galaxy. We had no knowledge of your civilization." "We're relatively new to interstellar travel," Kane admitted. "This is our first contact with alien life. We came because someone needed help." The aliens exchanged glances that even the humans could interpret as surprise. "You risk your lives to aid unknown beings, based solely on a distress signal?" asked one of the Lilani, voice tinged with disbelief. "It seemed like the right thing to do," Kane replied simply. Zixara gestured toward the door. "Captain Kane, I believe we have much to discuss. The situation is far more dire than your people could understand from our brief transmission." In the conference room, holographic displays showed the remains of planets and fleets, the devastation caused by what the Coalition called the Cronus Armada. "They appeared from beyond the galactic rim 6 months ago," Zixara explained. "They attack without warning or negotiation, harvest resources, and destroy all resistance. They've conquered 16 systems already and show no signs of stopping." "What do they want?" asked Dr. Chen. "Everything," replied Zixara. "Territory, resources, power. They see other species as either subjects to be ruled or obstacles to be eliminated." "How many ships do they have?" Kane asked, studying the tactical displays. "Their main fleet includes approximately 300 vessels, with advanced weaponry and defensive systems. Their hulls contain an alloy our weapons struggle to penetrate." Commander Okafor's expression darkened. "We brought 5 ships. We did not expect you would send a significant military force," Zixara admitted. "We hoped for medical assistance, supplies, perhaps evacuation help for our remaining refugees." The next Cronus attack wave will arrive within days. Most of our remaining vessels are damaged or unarmed. Kane leaned forward. Tell me everything about these Cronus. Their tactics, weaknesses, habits. Leave nothing out. The aliens looked at each other, confusion evident. Zixera turned back to Kane. Captain, surely you don't intend to fight. The odds are impossible. We only hope to evacuate as many survivors as possible before they return. Kane's eyes narrowed. On Earth, we have a saying. The most dangerous place is between a mother bear and her cubs. We didn't come all this way to watch you die. We came to help, and that's exactly what we're going to do. The determination in his voice seemed to surprise the aliens. They hadn't expected such resolve from a species they'd just met. They certainly hadn't expected what would happen when the Cronus Armada arrived to find humans, creatures from a high-gravity Deathworld they knew nothing about, standing in their way. Deathworlders unleashed. The Coalition Command Center buzzed with activity as humans and aliens worked side by side, preparing for the coming battle. Captain Kane stood before a holographic display of the surrounding space, studying the projected approach vectors of the Cronus fleet. They always attack in the same formation, he asked, pointing to the wedge-shaped arrangement. Yes, confirmed Zixera. 3 waves, heavy destroyers at the front, support vessels behind, command ships protected in the rear. They've used this approach in every engagement. Kane exchanged glances with Commander Okafor, and no one's tried to exploit that predictability. Our weapons cannot penetrate their shields with enough force to matter, said Liana, a Lilani tactical officer. We've lost 70% of our military vessels already. Dr. Maya Chen had been observing the aliens carefully since their arrival at the station. While Kane and the military personnel discussed tactics, she noticed something else: the way the coalition species moved. The Lilani were graceful but seemed to tire quickly. The stockier Zixerans moved deliberately, conserving energy. Even the most physically imposing aliens on the station appeared fragile compared to the humans. Excuse me, she interrupted. What's the gravity like on your homeworlds? The question seemed to surprise the aliens. Lilania has approximately 0.6 of your Earth standard. Liana answered. Most coalition worlds range from 0.5 to 0.8. Maya nodded. And the atmospheric pressure, temperature ranges. Zixera tilted his head. Our worlds are temperate. Few natural disasters, stable climates, oxygen levels typically lower than what you breathe now. I think I understand, Maya said, turning to Kane. Captain, they come from garden worlds. Earth would be classified as an extreme environment by their standards. Dr. Rivera joined the conversation. She's right. Look at their physiological responses to our normal conditions. They're experiencing what we'd consider mild altitude sickness. Their bodies aren't adapted to our oxygen levels, and they're finding our standard gravity taxing. Kane's eyes widened with understanding. We evolved on a death world. The term hung in the air for a moment before Zixera spoke. Death world. Yes, that would be our classification for planets with extreme conditions. Is Earth truly so harsh? Kane laughed softly. Hurricanes, earthquakes, blizzards, droughts, volcanic eruptions. And that's just the environment. Our planet has predators that could tear apart most sentient species, diseases that ravage entire populations. We evolved alongside all of it. The aliens exchanged concerned glances. One of the Lilani whispered something that the translators didn't catch. What advantages does this give us? Kane asked Rivera. The doctor thought for a moment. Higher bone and muscle density, greater endurance, better tolerance for toxins and radiation, faster reaction times due to predator evolution. Our healing rate would seem remarkable to species from gentler environments. Kane turned to the tactical display with new purpose. Then we need a strategy that plays to our strengths. How long until the Cronus arrive? 17 hours, Liana answered. Good. Here's what we're going to do. The next hours passed in a blur of activity. Earth engineers worked with coalition technicians to modify ships and weapons. Dr. Rivera and her medical team shared stimulants and performance enhancers that were standard for human emergency operations, but revolutionary to the aliens. Meanwhile, Kane's tactical team developed a battle plan unlike anything the Coalition had attempted. 6 hours before the projected arrival of the Cronus fleet, Kane called together the commanders of all vessels. "The Cronus expect you to fight defensively," he told the assembled aliens. "They expect you to protect the station at all costs. We're going to do the opposite." He walked them through the plan, a strategy so aggressive it bordered on reckless by Coalition standards. The Earth ships would take the vanguard position, supported by the few remaining Coalition military vessels. They would engage the Cronus directly while smaller, faster ships executed targeted strikes against the enemy command vessels. "This plan requires extraordinary coordination," objected a Zixaran commander, "and the physical demands on our pilots will be handled by human volunteers," Kane finished. "We've already selected crew members for the most demanding roles." As the meeting ended, Zixara approached Kane privately. "Your species is willing to risk everything for people you just met. Why?" Kane considered the question. "Because it's who we are. Humans survived on Earth by helping each other, by fighting together against threats bigger than ourselves. It's in our nature." The High Counselor seemed troubled. "The Cronus outmatch us technologically. They outnumber us significantly. Their hulls resist our weapons. By any rational calculation, this battle is already lost." Kane smiled. "Good thing humans aren't always rational." 2 hours before the Cronus arrival, Kane walked through the horizon, checking on his crew. In the engine room, engineers had pushed the propulsion systems beyond their design specifications. In the medical bay, staff prepared for casualties while administering combat stimulants. In the hangar, pilots ran final checks on fighters modified with Coalition technology. Kane found Dr. Chen in her quarters, studying Cronus communication patterns. "Found anything useful?" he asked. She looked up, eyes bright with discovery. "Their language structure suggests hierarchy is everything to them. Status is embedded in every utterance. They don't just follow orders. Their entire identity is wrapped up in their place in the chain of command. A weakness we can exploit. Maybe cut off the head, and the body might not know how to function." Kane nodded. "That supports our strategy. Target their command ships, disrupt their communication, break their hierarchy." When Kane returned to the bridge, Commander Okafor handed him a tablet. "Final assignments. Every position filled, every ship ready." Kane reviewed the list, noting how many crew members had volunteered for the most dangerous missions. "Send the order. Battle stations in 30 minutes." As the horizon's klaxons sounded, the bridge crew took their positions. On the main view screen, the Coalition station grew smaller as the Earth vessels moved into attack formation. "Cronus fleet detected," announced the sensor officer. "Dropping out of FTL in Sector 7. The enemy ships appeared on the tactical display. Hundreds of them, arranged in the predicted formation. Their hulls gleamed dully in the light of a distant star. All ships, maintain position," Kane ordered. "Let them make the first move." Minutes stretched into an hour as the Cronus fleet advanced slowly, seemingly puzzled by the small defensive force arrayed against them. Finally, a communication came through. "Pitiful defenders," boomed a harsh voice, the translation carrying notes of contempt. "Your resistance is noted and dismissed. Surrender the station and yourselves to the glory of the Cronus Empire." Kane straightened in his chair. "This is Captain Darius Kane of Earth. We reject your demand and offer our own. Leave this system immediately or face the consequences." A sound came through the speakers that the translator interpreted as laughter. "Earth, unknown and insignificant. Your species will be studied briefly before processing. Your final warning has been delivered." The transmission cut off. Moments later, the front line of Cronus vessels fired, energy weapons lancing toward the human ships. "Evasive pattern Alpha," Kane commanded. "All ships, execute attack plan. What followed stunned the watching coalition forces. Instead of retreating or forming a defensive screen, the Earth vessels accelerated directly toward the Cronus fleet. They weaved through enemy fire with precision that seemed impossible, closing distance rapidly. "Firing solutions locked," reported the weapons officer. "Target points identified." "Fire," Kane ordered. The Horizon's main batteries discharged, joined by simultaneous fire from the other Earth ships. The carefully coordinated barrage focused on specific structural vulnerabilities that coalition engineers and human analysts had identified during their hurried preparations. 3 Cronus destroyers erupted in flames. The Cronus response was immediate and overwhelming. A wall of energy weapons fire that engulfed the human ships. The Horizon shuddered under the assault. "Shields at 60%, reported an officer. "Maintain course," Kane commanded. "Prepare boarding teams." On the tactical display, the smaller, faster coalition vessels equipped with human pilots were executing their own attack runs, darting between the larger Cronus ships with maneuvers that seemed suicidal. Several were destroyed, but others reached their targets, the command ships in the rear formation. "Sir," said Okafor, "Team Bravo has breached the primary command vessel." Kane nodded grimly. "Tell them they have 15 minutes." Aboard the Cronus command ship, a team of Earth Marines, led by Lieutenant Sarah Diaz, moved quickly through alien corridors. The Cronus they encountered were physically imposing. Taller than humans, with thick exoskeletons and multiple limbs, but they seemed shocked by the direct assault. "They're not used to close combat," Diaz reported back to the Horizon. "Their internal security is minimal. We've reached the central command hub." What happened next would become legendary in both human and coalition accounts of the battle. Lieutenant Diaz's team fought their way into the Cronus command center and captured the ship's commander. An action so unexpected that the Cronus hierarchy faltered. As Dr. Chen had predicted, the rigid command structure collapsed when its leadership was compromised. Meanwhile, the Earth ships continued their aggressive assault, targeting key systems on the Cronus vessels. Though outnumbered and taking heavy damage, they pressed the attack with a ferocity that confused the enemy. "Captain," called the communications officer, "the Cronus fleet is showing signs of disorganization. Multiple ships are breaking formation." Kane watched the tactical display, where the massive enemy fleet was indeed beginning to fragment. Without clear orders from their command vessels, individual ship commanders made conflicting decisions. Some continued to attack, others moved to defensive positions, while others began retreating. "Push the advantage," Kane ordered. "All ships, focus fire on their propulsion systems." For the next hour, the battle raged across the sector. 3 Earth vessels sustained critical damage, including the Sentinel, which was lost with all hands. The Horizon itself was barely operational, with multiple hull breaches and failing systems. But they had turned the tide. "Sir," reported Okafor, her uniform stained with blood from a head wound, "the remaining Cronus vessels are retreating." A cheer went up across the bridge. Kane allowed himself a brief smile before checking the casualty reports. The cost had been high, too high, but they had achieved what the coalition had thought impossible. As the Horizon limped back to the station, Kane stared at the view screen where the remains of the battle drifted in space. Coalition vessels approached, offering assistance with repairs and medical aid. "Sir," said Okafor quietly, "I've received a message from High Counselor Zixara. The Coalition Council wishes to speak with you once we dock." Kane nodded absently, his attention still on the tactical display where the Cronus fleet was now in full retreat. "Tell them I'll be available after I've checked on our wounded." 2 days later, Captain Kane stood before the assembled Coalition Council in their temporary chambers aboard the station. Representatives from 17 species watched him with a mixture of awe, gratitude, and trepidation. "Captain Kane," began Zixara formally, "the Coalition owes you and your people a debt we cannot repay. You have done what we thought impossible. You have defeated the Cronus Armada in open battle." "Not defeated," Kane corrected. "Driven back. They'll return, perhaps with greater numbers. And when they do, replied Zixara, they will find us better prepared. Your tactics, your technology, your unique physiological advantages have shown us new possibilities. The Council had prepared a formal declaration of alliance, offering Earth membership in the Galactic Coalition with special status. As Kane read through the document, he noted provisions for technological exchange, defensive cooperation, and cultural integration. Your ships barely survived, observed one council member. Your casualties were significant, yet our reports indicate your crew's morale remains high. How is this possible? Kane considered the question. Humans are adaptable. We evolved on a world that tested us constantly, that forced us to overcome or perish. But our greatest strength isn't our physical resilience. It's our ability to face impossible odds together, to find hope in darkness. As the council session concluded, Dr. Chen approached Kane with a data tablet. The Coalition has granted us access to their stellar database, she said excitedly. Captain, there are thousands of habitable worlds within reach, hundreds of species we could establish relations with. And how many of those species evolved on worlds like Earth? Kane asked. Maya checked the data. Very few. According to their classification system, Earth would be categorized as a Class 12 death world. Less than 3% of known sentient species evolved in similar conditions. Kane nodded thoughtfully. Then we have something unique to offer the galaxy. Not just our strength or our technology, but our perspective, our experience overcoming challenges that would crush other species. As they watched Coalition and human engineers working side by side on repairs, Maya smiled. They're calling us Deathworlders now, some with fear, but most with respect. Kane gazed out at the stars visible through the station's vast windows. Humanity had taken its first steps into a larger universe, not as conquerors, but as defenders, as allies who brought with them the unique gifts forged in Earth's crucible of evolution. Deathworlders, he repeated softly. I can think of worse reputations to have.